There should be a lot of things done. We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control.
This is my video update on this Sunday, midday, October 6th, coming to you from Napa, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Hillary in a panic. She is in a panic. The political elite and globalists are in a panic because they are losing the media, the information space. And Hillary's solution to all of this is to repeal Section 230. She wants to repeal Section 230, which separates platforms and publishers. It grants platforms certain protections that publishers do not have. And this is Hillary's solution to the fact that they are losing their control of news, of information. Repeal Section 230, according to Hillary, which, if it were to happen, if Section 230 was repealed, then platforms would become publishers because they wouldn't have the Section 230 protection. And if they were to become publishers, then it would open them up to all kinds of legal issues, and they would effectively shut down. That is what would happen if you repealed Section 230 protection, which is exactly what Hillary Clinton wants. She would like to return to a world of 30 years ago where you had 6 or 7 media companies that controlled the news and controlled information and were controlled by the globalists and the political elite. That is the world that Hillary Clinton wants to return to. What I say is that Section 230 does not need to be repealed, Hillary. It needs to be enforced. Section 230 needs to be properly enforced. Right now, at the moment, you have platforms which have Section 230 protection, which also act as publishers. And they censor content and they edit content. And this is not right. If you are a platform, then you have to act as a platform. If you do not act as a platform, then you become a publisher. So Section 230 has to be enforced, not repealed. But Hillary is in a panic because things are not looking good for the Harris campaign. And things are looking pretty good for the Trump campaign. And Trump was in Butler. This is a nice view, huh? Trump was in Butler, Pennsylvania, the place where the first assassination attempt went down, and he was joined by J.D. Vance and by Elon Musk. The crowds were huge at this rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And Elon Musk was brought on stage, and he said that he was in dark MAGA attire. He was in dark MAGA mode. And Elon Musk talked about the dangers of Trump losing the election. And Elon Musk, over the past couple of months, he has been very concerned that if Trump loses the election, then the United States would effectively become a one-party system, and that would be the end of the U.S. as we know it. And that is what Elon Musk told the crowds in Butler. He was very, very excited to be on stage. Elon Musk, he was jumping around and waving his hands up and down. And he was like a kid up there, I have to admit. But yeah, he was in dark MAGA mode, and he told the crowd what he's been basically telling everybody on X, what he's been posting on X, which is that if Trump loses, then the U.S. is in danger. And he's got a point, no doubt about it. It's hard to know if the U.S. will be able to survive another 4 years of the neocons and the neolibs in power. But if Trump wins, there are some question marks. Will he fill his cabinet with neocons? That would be very, very bad. And will Trump be able to pull the United States out of all of these useless wars? Ukraine, Middle East, ramping up a conflict with China, NATO, giving money to NATO and the European Union and all of these things. Will Trump be able to scale all of this back? Because in my opinion, that's what's going to be needed to save America. The U.S. is going to have to focus on the U.S. That's a radical view, isn't it? America is going to have to focus on America for the next 12 years. 4 years of Trump and 8 years of Vance, possibly. But that's what it's going to take to get America back to where it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago, if that's even possible. But can Trump do these things? Can he take on the deep state? Can he take on the military-industrial complex, the neocons? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe we will find out. But according to Musk, Harris would be a disaster. That is what Musk told the crowd in attendance in Butler, Pennsylvania. And NATO, yeah, the U.S., they throw a lot of money at NATO. They throw pretty much all the money for NATO is pretty much coming from the United States. 70 or 75% of NATO's financing is courtesy of the United States of America. And the Europeans, they love it. They love the fact that they can just sit back in Europe at NATO headquarters and collect all of that American cash and the military-industrial complex. Well, they really love all the NATO spending, and that is why NATO is planning to build up their forces, to build up their military, their weapons, their spending. They are planning to build everything up over the next 10 years. This is according to the German publication Die Welt. They have seen some super duper secret documents which outline NATO's expansion goals. And Die Welt said in this article that what this will require is member states of NATO to put more into the alliance than the 2% requirement. Is it 2% or is it 3%? I believe it is 2%. Let's see what Die Welt says. 2%. The plan would probably demand significantly more than 2% of member states' national GDP to be spent on defense, according to NATO and the German publication Die Welt. So that is what it would require. Significantly more funding into NATO. And you know that most of the EU, the European NATO members, will not be able to do this because at the moment, about half of them don't even fulfill the 2% requirement, including countries like, I believe, Germany and France. Greece fulfills it. Poland fulfills it. But a lot of countries in NATO do not spend 2% of their GDP on NATO, and this new plan to build up NATO is going to require more than 2%. Never going to happen. So where are they going to find this money? Where is NATO going to find this money? Where is the military-industrial complex going to find this money to expand and build up? Well, from the United States, of course. They're going to print it in the USA, and they're going to give it to Europe. They're going to give it to Brussels, and they're going to give it to the MIC. At least that's the roadmap, the plan over the next 10 years. So that's the article from Die Welt, and let's stick with NATO. Let's stick with NATO and with Project Ukraine. NATO and Project Ukraine. And the Financial Times, they put out an article yesterday, and they say that the plan from NATO with regards to Project Ukraine, from the collective West, with regards to Project Ukraine and Russia, is a deal to end the conflict, which would be land for NATO. That is actually what the Financial Times is going with. Those are the words that they are actually using: land for NATO membership. Ukraine, NATO membership, and the West Germany model. Security guarantees will have to underpin any peace deal where Russia retains control of Ukrainian land. I talked about this yesterday. We've been talking about this for many, many weeks and months, that this is how they are going to define victory. This is how they are going to exit Project Ukraine. At least this is their hope, their delusion and their hope for an exit to Project Ukraine, to get Zelensky to agree to this, and then to approach Russia and say, Russia, you can keep the land, but Ukraine is going to enter NATO. Deal? What do you guys say? What do you say, Putin? How does that sound to you? That's what they are going to present to Russia, and this is the West Germany model. This was actually talked about a couple of years ago, the West Germany model, and freezing the conflict and getting a part of Ukraine into NATO, like West Germany, and then building up that part of Ukraine, and eventually over many, many decades, the part of Ukraine that is not in NATO, they're going to get very jealous, and then they're going to reunify with the part of Ukraine that is in NATO, because there's going to be this huge economic boom, and everyone's going to be happy, and Russia's going to lose. That's pretty much the thinking behind all of this. But no, that's not what's going to happen, and Russia is not going to accept this type of deal. But let's read some of what the Financial Times is saying. Land for NATO membership. To be clear, neither Kiev nor its supporters are proposing to recognize Russia's sovereignty over the 1/5 of Ukrainian territory it has illegally grabbed since 2014. To do so would encourage further Russian aggression and severely undermine the international legal order. What is envisioned is tacit acceptance that those lands should be regained through diplomatic means in the future. Even that, understandably, is a sensitive issue for Ukrainians, especially when presented as the basis of a compromise with Moscow. Ceding land to gain NATO membership may be the only game in town, as a Western diplomat told us. But for Ukrainians, it remains a taboo, in public at least. From Bonn to Kiev, the West German model for Ukraine has been discussed in foreign policy circles for more than 18 months. Land for NATO membership. That's what they're trying to convince Zelensky to go for. And Zelensky cannot go for this. We know why Zelensky cannot agree to this, because if he did agree to this, the Banderites would have him for lunch. But that's the exit plan for Project Ukraine. And that's how they're going to declare victory. And the Financial Times, they go on to say that perhaps the most persuasive argument came from the U.S. Cold War historian Mary Sarot in this piece from Foreign Affairs in Neocon magazine. Sarot's contention is that the terms of NATO membership can be adapted to suit individual circumstances. Norway pledged not to house a NATO base on its territory when it became a founding member. West Germany's strategy was to make clear its borders were provisional. It had to tolerate division indefinitely, but not accept it and renounce the use of force to retake East Germany. Ukraine should, she wrote, define a military defensible border, agree to not permanently station troops or nuclear weapons on its territory unless threatened with attack, and renounce use of force beyond that border except in self-defense. NATO membership under these terms would be presented to Moscow as a fait accompli, Sarot added. But there would still be an implicit negotiation. Instead of a land for peace deal, the carrot would be no NATO infrastructure for peace. And Russia is supposed to believe these promises, these assurances from NATO. Okay, land for NATO. And as NATO, we promise you that the part of Ukraine that enters NATO, there will be no NATO buildup in this part of Ukraine, except for self-defense reasons. And Russia is supposed to believe this. How dumb would Russia have to be to actually believe these NATO promises? How dumb would they have to be? They would have to be galactically stupid to believe these NATO promises. Because NATO in the past, whenever they've promised something, well, they've always kept their word, right? Always. NATO's always kept their word. Not 1 inch east, right? Not 1 inch east. And NATO's kept that promise. Not 1 inch east. I like how this this analyst, this historian that came up with this idea, that's advocating for this solution. I like how she says this will be presented to Russia as a fait accompli. Russia's not going to have a choice. Yeah, I think NATO is not going to have a choice, actually. When all is said and done, I think the fait accompli is going to be presented to the collective West, not to Russia. Anyway, look, the Financial Times, to be fair, they do say that this type of solution is probably not going to fly with Russia. The bear does the poking. Other analysts argue West Germany is a bad parallel because its borders, though provisional, were recognized by both sides. In Ukraine, they are being fought out every day. And the Financial Times goes on to say that other analysts say that this model is not going to work for many, many reasons. But anyway, land for NATO. That is what NATO is kicking around as a solution to Project Ukraine, the West Germany model. It was always about NATO. The whole conflict was about regime change in Russia and NATO expansion. That's what this whole freaking war was all about. It wasn't about Ukraine. It wasn't about Ukrainian democracy. It wasn't about any of that. It was about a 2014 coup, and after the coup, getting Ukraine into NATO and expanding NATO, because NATO as a business needs to expand. If the NATO business does not expand, then it dies. And if it dies, that means a whole lot of money is lost. So that is the Financial Times article. In Ukraine, things are falling apart, especially in Donbass. Cauldrons are being formed everywhere. Ukrainian soldiers are being encircled in so many locations. Just go to Alexander's video from yesterday, and he details all of the locations where Ukrainian soldiers are being encircled in these Russian cauldrons. Zelensky yesterday, he went to Sumy, and he did an Instagram video from Sumy, close to Kursk, and he was talking up how important the Kursk operation was. He said it's crucial to understand that the Kursk operation is a really strategic thing, something that adds motivation to our partners, motivation to be with Ukraine, be more decisive, and put pressure on Russia, Zelensky said on Telegram. He said the incursion, which Ukraine says is bringing war back to Russia, has greatly helped Kiev to secure the latest military support packages from the West. PR. This is what Zelensky is saying. The whole Kursk thing was about PR and was about securing money from the West. That is the admission that Zelensky is making in this quote from Reuters. And Alexander, in his video update yesterday, he said that he is getting the impression that Zelensky, with each passing day, is caring less and less about Donbass, and he is more focused on the north, on Kharkiv and on Sumy Kursk, because that is where the narrative, the PR is being spun, and that is where the money is coming from that PR narrative. And it does look like Donbass is slowly being abandoned. That's how it looks. So that was Zelensky. Reuters did say in the article covering Zelensky's trip to Sumy, despite the initial rapid success, the Kursk incursion did not manage to significantly distract Russia from its advances in Ukraine's east. So even Reuters is pouring cold water on Zelensky's Kursk PR campaign. It didn't work, is what they're saying. It didn't work. Budanov is going to be fired. That's the way it looks. But after the elections, after the U.S. elections, Zelensky is going to be done with Budanov and with Defense Minister Umerov. And it does look like Budanov is going to be fired. And what Zelensky is going to do is he is going to blame the inevitable Kursk debacle, which will happen in a couple of months. He is going to blame it on Budanov. That's how it looks. That is why Yermak and Zelensky are going to be removing Budanov. They want him to be scapegoated. It was Budanov, the Intel chief, the Android AI Intel chief, who came up with the whole Kursk incursion. And now look what's happened. And that is why I am firing Budanov. He needs a scapegoat. And that scapegoat is going to be the Android AI robot known as Budanov. So that's going to happen after the US elections. And let's wrap this video up before we get to Clown Worlds. Let's wrap this up with what's going on in the Middle East. The whole world is waiting to see what Israel is going to do, how they are going to strike at Iran. All indications are that the strike against Iran will be a big one. That is what Netanyahu is saying. And for its part, Iran is preparing. The New York Times is reporting that Iran is preparing for the big strike. I imagine the big strike is going to happen tomorrow. Tonight, tomorrow. That's my guess, but we'll see. But Iran is preparing, according to the New York Times. They are moving their assets, their military assets, away from danger, from an Israeli strike, and their fighter jets are ready and waiting to intercept whatever comes their way. And we wait. We wait to see what happens, and God help us. God help us. Israel continues to pound Lebanon, by the way, with each day that passes. Israel continues to hit Lebanon. They claim that they are taking out many Hezbollah top officials. There are rumors that the guy that took over for Nasrallah, that he was killed in a strike, but we don't have official confirmation yet. There are sources, I believe, in the Israeli military that claim that they killed him in a strike the other day. But let's wait and see what happened there. And then you have Macron going up against Netanyahu. By the way, here in Cyprus, we are getting a lot of people fleeing the region. They are coming to Cyprus from Lebanon and from Israel. I was in a taxi the other day when I flew into Cyprus, and the taxi driver told me that the evening before I arrived, he said it was crazy at the airport. Thousands and thousands of people from Lebanon and from Israel. They got on a plane and they came to Cyprus. And I'm hearing reports that a lot of companies in Lebanon and Israel are relocating to Cyprus as well. And they're bringing their whole staff with them. And I will tell you right now, this is an aside before I get to Macron and Netanyahu. I'll tell you this right now, trying to find places to stay, Airbnbs, hotels, whatever, Limassol, Bafos, Larnaca, Napa. It's hard. It is hard to find places to stay. Usually in October, you can find Airbnbs and hotels very easily and at very good prices. Now, the prices are super high, and it's really hard to find places to stay. But anyway, I just thought I would let you guys know a lot of people from the region are coming to Cyprus, and a lot of businesses are going to be relocating to Cyprus. Anyway, we will see what happens. Macron and Netanyahu. So Macron yesterday, he said that, or he's calling for an embargo of arms to Israel. That is what Macron is calling for, and this really pissed off Netanyahu. Macron confirmed that France had already halted its arms deliveries to Israel. I think we are not being heard, Macron said in reference to the ongoing Israeli military offensive in Gaza. I think it is a mistake, including for the security of Israel. Our priority now is to avoid escalation. The Lebanese people must not, in turn, be sacrificed. Lebanon cannot become another Gaza. An interesting statement from Macron, and as I was reading this statement, I couldn't help but think about what would have happened if Macron took the same position with regards to Ukraine. Ukraine would be much better off. Ukraine would be saved if everything that Macron said here, including the action of an embargo, happened with Ukraine. If he embargoed weapons to Ukraine, if he had said that an embargo of weapons needs to happen to Ukraine for the security of Ukraine, including for the security of Ukraine, our top priority now is to avoid escalation with Russia. If he had said these things and had done these things, then we would be in a much different place with regards to Ukraine. But he didn't do these things. He escalated with Ukraine, and he sent as many weapons as France had to Ukraine, and escalated with Russia to the point of World War III. And Russia is a nuclear power. Russia is the nuclear power. Anyway, in the case of Israel and the war in the Middle East, Macron is taking a position to not escalate and to not send weapons to Israel. And Netanyahu, upset with Macron, he called his comments a disgrace. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and other Western leaders are now calling for arms embargoes against Israel. That was Netanyahu's response to Macron. All right, let's start entering some clown world territory. I think this is going to be a very, very long video. Do you guys remember this church? Last year when I was here, this church was being built. Now look at it. Beautiful, huh? White and blue. So let's do some clown worlds and wrap this long video up. A lot of news today. Anyway, the Emirates Airlines, they are banning pagers and walkie-talkies. I called this one. The latest airline to ban pagers and walkie-talkies, whether it's on your carry-on or in your luggage that you check in. There will be no pagers and no walkie-talkies on Emirates flights. Obviously, every airline is going to follow Emirates' example. The EU, this is a clown world. The EU, they are placing sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles. The European Union. The European Union, as per Janet Yellen's request, Ursula is going to place sanctions on Chinese EVs, 45% sanctions, according to Bloomberg. EU to impose tariffs up to 45% on Chinese electric vehicles. The new tariffs will be in effect for a period of 5 years. China has threatened tariffs on Europe's car and dairy sectors. So Germany voted against this. Germany said, please don't put sanctions on Chinese EVs because Germany's going to get hit hard, man. Germany is going to get pummeled by China. And the German automakers, I believe, are going to get pummeled by China. Does the EU actually think they can win in a trade war with China? Really? And these aren't tariffs, 45%. These are not tariffs. These are sanctions against China at the behest of the United States. Is there any doubt who Ursula and the EU, who they work for, whose best interests they have in mind? Is anyone doubting any of this? You think that that the EU kleptocrats in Brussels are looking after EU citizens? They are doing whatever the globalists in the United States, to be even more specific, the Yellens and all of these people, whatever they tell them to do, Brussels does. These sanctions are a clown world bonehead move, and the European Union, which is already weak and in recession, they are going to get pummeled by China. I mean, absolutely pummeled. It's one thing if you're the United States and you go up against China, but the EU, to actually believe that they can go up against China, clown world. Clown freaking world. But they did it. They did it. 45% tariffs on Chinese EVs. The Times, the UK Times, they are saying that North Korea supplies half of the shells used by Russia in Ukraine. Yes, we are back to this story. Russia, according to the Times of the UK, they have run out of weapons. They really have no more shells, according to the UK, to the Times. And it's only because of North Korea that Russia has won the artillery war, the attrition war. It's because of North Korea. Not because of Russia, not because of Russia industry, not because of Putin's planning and Russia's strategy and preparation. Nope. It was because of North Korea, because North Korea is awesome. That's basically what the Times is saying, right? North Korea is an industrial production military powerhouse. Yeah, it's North Korea that's behind Russia. Oh boy. They're never going to let that go. Russia's running out of weapons. They are never going to admit that Russia is just better at manufacturing. They're stronger at manufacturing. They're better at manufacturing. They have beaten the European Union and the United States when it comes to manufacturing. They will never, ever, ever admit it. So they would rather admit that North Korea is better than the European Union and the United States at manufacturing. All right, fine. North Korea is a manufacturing powerhouse, even beating out the European Union and the United States combined. That is how strong North Korea is at manufacturing. And finally, we have a parliament member in Ukraine who has figured out a way to finally defeat Russia. He has a victory plan, and his victory plan to defeat Russia and defeat the Putin is for Ukraine to invade Belarus, to attack Belarus, according to this. These people, where do they find these clowns, man? Where do they find these clowns? My God. This parliament member, he said that if Ukraine attacks Belarus, then Belarus's army will fold very quickly because, according to this guy, Belarus's army is unmotivated and weak. And once Belarus is defeated by Ukraine, then Putin will be exposed and weakened, and then victory is ours. Victory is Ukraine's. So the key, all this time, oh man, all this time, the key was Belarus, not Russia. It was Belarus was the key. Now you're telling us this, parliament member in Ukraine. Where were you 3 years ago? That's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like the t-shirt that I'm wearing today with the flag of Greece, the beautiful colors of Greece, the blue and the white. As you can see, these colors on this very new church. You will find the link to the Duran shop in the description box down below. Take care.